Good morning, good morning, good morning. Two babies are online. Hi, Emmy. We have Katie and Mandy here and Cherie. Beautiful. This is a live stream coaching session in the Elevated Mother Collective in December 2023. My name is Robyn Whitworth. I'm the CEO of the Elevated Mother and the programs that we run. And I'm really, really excited to be here today. We had a live coaching session last Friday. We talked a lot about money mindset, what that looks like, ways to shift things for you. This week, we had posted, we'd like to chat a little bit about overwhelm. And it's beautiful because I remember when I first posted about this, was it May? Sometime last summer is when I first taught a class about overwhelm. And I called it Ditching the Overwhelm. And the point of the class was to help you realize that overwhelm is a choice that you're actually making. And a lot of people have a lot of resistance to that idea. They're like, what? No, it's a feeling. It's just a feeling that I have. What's so interesting about that, though, and by the way, if you come on Zoom with us, please do. I wonder if I still have it copied. Please come on Zoom with us today. That's not something we always do, but this week we would love for you to be on to be able to ask your questions in person. And if you are on and you have something that you would like to be coached on, a question, a concern, a comment that is progressive, you are welcome to put it a 1 in the chat or type your question in the chat. And we have my team standing by. They'll be able to answer stuff in the chat as we go along. If time's getting short or whatever, we have a special guest coming on at 10:45 Mountain Standard Time. That will be really exciting. So you can watch for that. But back to the topic, if you're taking notes, a lot of women do have resistance to this idea of overwhelm being a choice. They're like, what? But this is one of the many reasons that the Elevated Mother program is so successful and so pivotal and so relatable, is because when we are going through our lives, we can forget that we have a choice. Experience, trauma, hurt, big events, stressors give us evidence that maybe we don't really have a choice in the matter. One such event for me was being diagnosed with multiple pregnancy complications. And you go, well, I didn't choose that. I didn't choose that. I didn't choose everything that comes with that. I choose to get pregnant because I wanted to choose to go to the hospital every 4 weeks, 4 hours away, and deliver early and sign the paper that says you realize this complication is fatal. You realize you probably maybe won't come back from this. You realize you have your paperwork in order. Who signs those kind of papers to have a baby? But that was what happened, right? And so you go, well, that wasn't a choice. And a lot of times we go through our lives and we've had experiences like that, where maybe a caregiver, someone you trusted deeply, didn't care for you in the way that was needed. Maybe a caregiver coerced you, shamed you, literally made you feel bad for thinking you could choose. This is why this idea of pulling back in your agency and reclaiming your ability to choose your life experience is so important. If mothers can learn this, they will raise children that are not shamed into things anymore. We're going to raise an entire new generation where they will understand the power of their voice, this power of choices. Yes, we go through different periods of our time where we're maturing our ideas. But the idea that our children have choice all the time, ladies, all the time. It's not like all of a sudden when they're 9, now they can make choices without you. Like, I've heard moms say that phrase. Well, that period of time when they're ready to start making their own choices. That is an old paradigm. Old. Those children come to you with agency intact. It is with them from birth. They're making choices. So when a mom has the idea that her kid cannot make choices, that affects her energy towards her child and how she thinks. She will then start taking responsibility for the experience of that child because she started taking responsibility of their agency. And here we start having women that start doing that all over. They start worrying about the experience of their husband. They start worrying about the experience of old lady Hubbard next door. They start taking experiences of their mother-in-law. They start taking experiences of their boss. They're up in the agency of all these people. And so when that person feels sad for something you were involved in, you feel the weight of it. When that kid feels sad because their friend made fun of them because they wore blue shorts instead of pink shorts, it's your fault. And we have hundreds of thousands of mothers running around in this world if you can think about that as they put a rock in their backpack every time that they climb up into the agency of someone else, thinking, I have something to do with this choice. This has something to do with me. They put a rock in the backpack. We have hundreds of thousands of mothers walking around with these backpacks on all day. Sometimes they even sleep with them. And they wake up in the morning and sit on the edge of their bed and they're like, wow, why am I so tired? I just slept all night. Or maybe not, but like, how come I feel like my back is hurting? And it's not just because maybe you have 20 pounds of baby weight to lose. Like this image, this mental baggage that you're carrying around because you're taking the agency of so many people. Number one, realize it's your own creation. You had an idea at some point that that was the right thing to do. And it likely was out of the pure goodness of a heart that thought, well, if I take responsibility for this, somehow I'm helping this person. Somehow this is helpful to them. But what happens is we get weighed down. We start feeling sore and tired. And we're trying to feel good about ourselves. So we cope with overeating. We cope with overspending. Or we don't spend anything. And we're like, nope, I have to please all of these people. I have to please them all, because if they're not happy, it's my fault. Because you chose to make it your fault. Isn't that interesting? It all starts with a choice that you say, I care about this person's experience. Thereby, I've now made it personal to me. However this person's life is playing out, I have something to do with that. You have literally connected a cord to all of these people. And so it literally becomes an energy leak. You will be tired when you've slept through the night. You will feel like you're dragging. It just affects everything energetically, everything. And so when we've chosen, it was a conscious choice to say, I'm responsible for the choices of my child. It is. You thought in your mind, this is what I should do. Thereby, all the things that happen feel personal to you. But when we go, oh, I'm sorry, I have I think a hair or something tickling me. When we have, say, our husband, and when we realize he's had his agency the whole time, he's a big boy. He's going to make the decisions he's going to make about his car, his boots, his pocket knife that he leaves in his backpack every time you go on a vacation, the job he chooses to work that might have a 50-minute commute, and he leaves on vacation half the time doing, maybe it's not a vacation, like a business trip, and he doesn't make as much money as you think he should make. Yet he's a big boy and he thinks that that is the right thing. And when you climb up into his agency and you're like, no, it should be different, then he's like all in defensive mode. Like, excuse me? Right? When we climb into other people's lanes, that's when we're asking for relationship issues on so many levels. When we allow them to live their own life and we're like, okay, that's where communication is the key. Communication is the key to so many things. We don't have to climb into their agency to be a good life partner or be a good mother. We get to sit in our own selves, become very good at communicating, become emotionally mature, so that when they do something that impacts us, then we can be whole and strong and wonderful. And we just are like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. And it's not a personal emotional experience anymore when we've said, oh, they're over there. Now, there's a good word for this. It's called boundaries. When you have boundaries in place, you know when that person's talking to you, you know when you're going to spend time with that person. If you have an in-law or a neighbor, you can set boundaries. And it's like, you don't get to come to my house every day for 4 hours, or you don't get to talk to me like that, or, whatever it is. But a lot of people just take stuff thinking, well, I'll just get through it. They're people pleasing to whatever, take the experience of that person on. So boundaries is one of the very, very first things you can do if overwhelm is something that you experience a lot. There is boundaries in your world that you don't have set up. And a lot of us weren't modeled this. A lot of us were not modeled this. Ideas about boundaries, books about boundaries, guys, this is in the last like 50 years. So if your parents are over 50, or that generation of 60s, 70s, 50s, like those, there was no context for them. You can't ever be like, oh, they should just know. They won't. They don't have any context like we have, and they might be reading about it. That'd be really great if they are. So just be aware that this is our season. Those of us that are raising our families now, we get to put forth this information. And our kids will likely have another psychological revolution where they'll learn something else. Is there, I'm going to just check the chat for a second on.
Amy brought up a really good point that she's had an awareness about.
Did you want to share, Amy, live?
Sure.
I just put it in the chat that when I was young, I was taught, and it was just kind of drilled into me to be the example, be a good example, and I was the oldest in my family, extended family as well. We were very active in our church, and I took that idea to mean that if I was a bad example, if I made a mistake, that like other people's sin was my responsibility. That because I was being put up as a good example, that I couldn't make mistakes because then I would be a bad example. And if my good behavior influenced people, then my bad behavior must influence people too. And so for me, it's been a journey to unlearn that and realize that it was actually quite prideful to think that I had that much power in someone else's life. I was like, oh, well, okay. But also to say that like I've shifted now to like I can still be a source of love and light for people around me, but it's not my responsibility how they receive it or not. And I can be human and make mistakes, and it's not my responsibility for how they receive that either. I get to just be who I want to be because I want to be that way. And then whatever other people do with that, great. But it's been a pretty deep unlearning process to just stay in my own space and not try to be the example, like just do it because I want to do it, not because I'm trying to influence anybody else.
Robyn, can I add to that?
Yeah.
So I was actually just mentioning to Kim this morning about a book that like saved one of my kids, like saved our relationship, saved the way that he is treated and approaches the world. Like it literally saved us. And the whole, a big part of the premise is our kids' agency and how important it is and how powerful it is. And it taught me that, like, we know that if you tell a kid they're bad, then there's going to be repercussions. But it also talks about what happens when you tell a kid that they're good. And like, I also grew up in this scenario of being told like, oh, you're so good. And so then you feel guilty if you make a choice that is perceived as bad. And I love how the author just kind of enlightened me to the power of our agency and how our choices aren't good or bad. They're choices for experiences. And anyways, it's a really powerful book, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who wants to shift that for how they parent their kids. I feel like it aligns with a lot of what Robyn teaches us.
Will you put the title and author in the chat?
Yes.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Resources are king, peoples. There's a quote I love. I love it so much. It says, there is no such thing as lack of resources. Only a lack of resourcefulness. Take it in, ladies. If you ever feel like, There's no way I can do this. There's no way I can have that choice. There's no way. I've searched everywhere. Just know that that is a choice you've made to see. I am no longer choosing to be resourceful on this. And that's okay. It can be okay. That can be the end of a journey on something. But ultimately, if you've seen someone else doing something or experiencing something different, there is probably resources available. It's coming to calls, right? Coming to calls, saying your questions, getting things out, telling the world what's going on. Then they go, hey, I have a book that will change your life, or I have this podcast, or I have this PDF, or I have this thing. I can't tell you how many people I've sent the 3-day potty training method to. So many moms that have like been trying to potty train for like months and months and months. And I'm like, I have this resource that worked really, really good. But I feel bad that I didn't have it for my oldest because I was a witch. And it's just a PDF that another mom sent me 15 years ago. I don't even know if it's the name of a book, so I can't give it to you. But if you want the potty training PDF, drop it in the comments. But it works. And it's not the 3D method that I think is in a book. It's different because it literally is 14 days start to finish, but the time with your child is only 3 days. But she has this whole like prep for the parent. Very good. So good. Okay. Raising Lions. Ooh, I think I've heard of that. I'm going to have to read it. Beautiful. Okay, so boundaries. And if you need a boundary book, one of my favorites is Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Tawwab, who has been a therapist, family and couple therapist for like 15 years. Very good. There's a Christian-based one that quotes scripture throughout that is by Townsend. I can't remember the first name. But if you look up Boundaries by Townsend, it'll come up. It has like a red and white cover. Yeah, Sharice, you've maybe seen that. That's the Christian-based one that has scriptures throughout. So if you love paralleling that kind of stuff, but the book by Nedra Tawwab really, really expanded boundaries for me. I was like, oh, this is with this, and this is how, okay. And it helped me see how we're making a conscious choice about our experiences around other people. And I love that we're unraveling this idea that being a good example is probably an unhealthy way to help a child want to make choices that are going to benefit them. But it's also like, they're going to choose what they choose. And if we want the freedom to choose what we want to choose, we do get to let our kids sometimes go to school in shorts when it's 27 degrees. I mean, you just don't fight that battle. It's so interesting. The level on which I've heard parents be like, the other night I was at a church function and this mom was just so full of this anger towards her child for their clothing choices. So much energy was being expended in this conversation. And I was like, wow, I just observed it. I was like, interesting. She is very concerned about the clothing her daughter is choosing to wear. And I just thought, I wonder if she's aware that, that's not like a earth-shattering decision, but in her mind, it was so important. And I can't judge her on it, right? I can be curious and observe it, but I don't judge her because maybe there's something about clothes in their house that's really important. I just saw the level of energy with which she was expending about it. I was like, wow, this is really something she's chosen to make big in her life. It's really big here. Thank you, Cherie, for putting those in the chat in the thing. Okay, so boundaries is the first thing that we want to look at when you're feeling a lot of overwhelm. The second thing you want to look at is how you have learned, and maybe you need to have some practice on this, but processing emotion, learning where they come from, what they are. Cherie is our resident expert on the body and the nervous system and the feelings and the emotional experience that the body has. And she's done a great class in the Elevated Mother Collective, you can search emotions in the search tab and her class will come up. You can watch it. You can watch it with your husband. You can watch it with your kids. It's excellent. And why we want to learn to process is because when we are emotionally activated because of childhood experiences, cultural teachings, whatever it might be, when we're emotionally activated, it shifts how the brain solves a problem. And it shifts the nervous system in the body. And we then have a lot going on. We have a lot going on. What we get to realize, though, is if we back that up and we go, okay, what initially happened there? I'm not a victim to my emotions. I'm not a victim to this. This is part of the human experience, that my emotions get to share with me part of my experience. But ultimately, how I think about the experience is what triggers or activates the different emotional experience that I'll have. So while 10 years ago, my husband saying a certain something would have caused an emotional activation in me because I chose to say, that's offensive, how dare he? Then it goes down into my body and expresses itself as this emotional activation. So I love to teach our clients that you can back that up and go, oh, what do I think about this? What do I think about the word overwhelm? What do I think about when my kid does this? What do I think about if the principal's office called me and says my kid scratched another kid? Does that mean I'm a bad mom? Does that mean my kid is now going to be bullied for life? Does that mean, see how we've written stories about things, and they can be relived past experiences that we've taken in. So then when something like that happens, our body goes, oh, this is what that means. And if that's what that means, then we're scared, we're sad, we're mad, we're offended. But I have to realize that agency is real, and I actually can choose. I can actually choose the series of thoughts that goes through my mind about something. So I can go, okay, the next time the principal calls, I'm going to remember it's not about me. This was something my son did in his real lived experience that said scratching this kid was the right choice. Okay, but it means nothing about me. But I get to go and love my kid and be there with him because I'm his caregiver, right? But all of a sudden, the emotional activation is like compassion, curiosity, wonder for this small child that thought scratching another human was appropriate. You see, it just shifts everything. It shifts everything. And all of a sudden, going and doing that doesn't add to my day, and it's so overwhelming and da-da-da-da, because I don't make that choice anymore. I'm just like, oh, yeah, I'll just call the dentist and tell him we'll come next week. And I got to go pick up my kid. He's going to need some compassion today. The experience is so different when we choose the different thought about it. And I'll tell you that how we experience this life is what? Is there a percentage, Cherie? Like, it's like something percentage through the nervous system. Like everything that you're feeling here goes through the nervous system. And so when we can learn to shift our thoughts, you shift the whole experience to the outside. And you start going, oh, I have a choice here. Oh yeah, Robyn taught me I have a choice here. And I love, if you've never read, and I'm going to bring it up again because I love it so much, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, right? He was in a concentration camp, stripped of every dignity, clothes, everything. His family was killed before his eyeballs. And yet he came out and wrote about how you find meaning in life. And I'm going, you know what? He talked about between stimulus and response, there is a space. And his work on that idea alone changed psychology forever. Forever. He wrote books and did all of these seminars after the Holocaust. It was like, look, this happened to me, and this is why in the brain. And so what if we did that with people that have trauma? What if we did that with relationships? He put forth so many ideas that the psychology, community were like, no, it can't be that simple. No, We can't say we can make those kinds of choices psychologically, because that would mean any change in someone's life is purely psychological. What? Like, it just blew their minds. And now we're learning so much more about our energetics to where we go, yeah, that's true. And if we look at Jesus Christ's teachings, he taught about this idea that we can change all the time. He promotes it. You can choose this. You could choose this. Why would you choose the beam in this person if you have a moat here? Like, he put forth these ideas with the only way those ideas would work is if we have choice. And so you look at what Jesus taught and you're like, oh, it's like he knew that. He knew we could shift how we think so that we could shift to have peace and joy and abundance and love in a crazy world of contrast. He was setting us up for success 2,000 years ago. And we're figuring it out. Isn't that awesome? We're figuring it out. So learning how you process the feelings, learning what that is, to give yourself a 10-second, 2-second pause when something happens to go, no, there's space here. I have a choice to take a deep breath and think about this for a second. It takes practice, my friends. It does take practice, but you can do it and it will shift your whole life. So that when your husband comes storming in, or, these are just my personal experiences, but like, well, what about that? And I just can go, he's really fired up about this. This must be really important to him. I'm going to give him my 100% attention right now for the next 5 minutes. And I don't even say anything back. I'm just like, oh, what's going on? And I remain neutral because it's not about me. What? All of a sudden I reclaimed my life. And I don't have to choose overwhelm when a lot of things happen because I'm like, oh, I can sit in my car. Just the other day, I was coming out of Target and picking up an order for Christmas and my leg was hurting and some different stuff. And I was getting that feeling and I go like this because that's kind of how it feels to me. I start feeling tight and I'm just like, oh, and I sat in the car and I was doing this and I'm like, Robyn, this feels like overwhelm. What happened there? What's going on? And I sat in my car. I was probably 2 minutes, but I sat there and thought through it. I was like, It was these little series of events that this took a little bit longer than I thought it would. That lady took forever finding her card. This thing, like, I started having these stories that my expectation of how my day was going to go wasn't going to go that way. And I was like, whoa, Robyn, however your day goes, you're fine. There are no saber-toothed tigers chasing you down the street. There is not a tribe of Indians or Aboriginals with spears that are going to come out you as soon as you get home. Although that can feel that way when your kids come home from school. Like, I get real with myself. And I'm like, oh. And I can just take that calm. Did you have a comment, Sheree?
No, I was just going to say, Kim has a really good, she called it a struggle that she's facing. So I was just waiting for you to finish your train of thought. So that was just something, maybe she wants to come on live and get some coaching on.
Perfect.
I mean, you're kind of like giving it to me as you're talking. So, but yeah, I guess my daughter has struggled with behavioral issues since she was really young. And okay, so this is how I think of it. Like, my oldest is actually my stepson, and his mom parents him so incredibly different than me. And I've kind of always told myself, well, maybe Rachel's just a really good mom, and that's why Travis turned out so good. And maybe maybe I need to get my shit together or something, because I'm just really struggling with my first child. And I always feel like it's a reflection on me and how I parent her. And so like I hear everything that you're saying, but I just can't get those insecurities out of my head.
So I'm curious, when she was little, did you have insecurities as a parent?
I mean, yeah, because she was an extremely hyperactive little girl. She got diagnosed with ADHD when she was in kindergarten. And when she was a toddler, like I was like, there's something different about this kid in comparison to other toddlers. And I just had so many moms tell me, oh, that's just how toddlers are. Like, this is just your phase of life that you're in. And I always was just like, I don't know, this just doesn't feel right. And now that I'm raising my two younger boys, I can tell that it's like a much easier process. So yeah, I definitely did have secure insecurities when she was really young because people basically thought that I was crazy and I didn't know what I was talking about with my own child.
Take note, friends. Take note, friends. Moms are not given a manual. Was anyone given a manual with their first child? How about a manual for a child that processes the world a little differently than maybe 90%? How about a manual for the kid? I'm
Yeah.
telling you, like really. So if you had those insecurities when she was little, you've watched Foundations in our Evolved. Kim is a client, by the way, for anyone that's on here that isn't a client. Like, we talk about how the brain goes through these different stages of literal progression from utero, right? From the time they're conceived and the brain cord is made. And like, I think the fact that we can birth healthy children at the rate that we do is pretty much a miracle in and of itself. But like your daughter, you noticed, your intuition said, I think something might be happening here. And lots of people didn't listen to you. Anyone had that experience? Let Kim know she's not alone. If you've ever experienced where you said something and people were like, no, like they didn't. I hate that when a pediatrician does that. It's like, but I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you had those insecurities when she was little, the chances that she would internalize some of those insecure feelings is high. And you don't go, oh, yep, it's my fault. You just go, oh, now that I know, there is always, always, always an opportunity to shift. Always, always, always. So whether your daughter is 14 or 30, there is an opportunity for the relationship and for your mental health to shift. So just a little context. My oldest daughter was my first. And I had an idea that motherhood was just going to come naturally and that I would birth this child and it was going to be so easy. But to my defense, my mother, I don't know, she was just gifted from God. She had 10 children, never medicated, had them at our house. Like, so she never even got a stretch mark in her life. I just saw this process where she just got pregnant, lived life. She was not sick. I did not know the things of morning sickness until I got pregnant. I was like, what? So the whole experience was so shocking to me. I was like, what is this? What is that? And my mom was like, I'm sorry, I just didn't have it. I don't know what this is. You know, so it was kind of like, it was all shocking. And then when I went to have my baby and I went into labor and then I ended up in an emergency C-section and then I couldn't breastfeed. And then, right, there was so much going on within me that was just like, my daughter definitely had an emotionally activated, reactive mom until she was like 8. Like,
Okay.
and so
No, I
with
am.
that, I see that she, in 3rd grade, she would come home crying a lot. Normal, by the way, guys. If your kids are between the ages of like 7 and 10, like their emotions are developing and so they'll cry. But like, I thought oh my gosh, my child has no emotional resiliency. Like I was placing these judgments on my child, even in my sense of like, this is my fault. I have to fix this. And she got a lot of, she would say things and I'd be like, oh, you don't want to say that way. You should do it this way. Like I would correct her. I was very critical. In the moment though, I thought I was doing her a service.
Yeah.
Being a good mom, it was fine. Once she got older and I started doing this work, I was like, that's why she has so much anxiety. That's why she has a lot of guilt when she makes what she's perceiving as a mistake. I'm like, because she'd be like, Mom, I'm gonna get an A-. What is this level of emotional turmoil that she is feeling because of an A-? Like, but I had to reflect on how I raised her.
It's really crazy that you say that because my daughter's anxiety is exactly the same as my anxiety. And I was on a call with Cherie this week about how, long story short, I've never learned how to regulate my emotions as a child. And now I see that she can't regulate her emotions. She resorts to cutting and suicidal attempts and being very angry and like just the world is going to come to an end, and that's exactly how I am when problems arise in my life. So that's very interesting that you say all that.
So what I want to share is once I started doing this work and I would see this behavior in my daughter, I sat her down and still do because she's in college now. That is her real childhood. We can't go back. However, in her more mature brain, she now has the cognitive ability with a fully functioned prefrontal cortex. By the way, it doesn't happen until girls are like 19. So, but she now can see the long-term effects of things. And so when I sit with her, just the other day, she was calling, freaking out because a professor docked her on this thing that she's doing. And it's not fair, Mom. And I don't know what to do. And she didn't. And I said, you know what? You can go and email that teacher. You can talk to her. You're not a victim to this. If that's really what it was, that's really what the syllabus said, and you made everything on there, go and talk to her. And she's like, but I'll cry. I'm going to cry. I always cry when I stand up for myself. Like it was, anyway. But we've had conversations now where I go, you know what? I know that your emotions do that because when you were little, I yelled at you for things like that. I shut you in your room when you had big emotions, but the truth is, it's because I didn't know what to do. It was easier for me to shut you in a room than to deal with it myself because I didn't know what to do. And she will look at me and she's just like, oh, it healed her to know that she's not broken. That's just like, oh, and I go, but you know what? I'm changing it now. I don't do that anymore. And I'm really grateful. I can apologize for anything you feel like I get to apologize for, but I want you to know that I am changing and I recognize it. And this is part of the reason that you feel that way is because that was the environment. But I now know different skills. There's some books I can suggest to you. There's, these different skills I can teach you. And she's so receptive. She is so receptive when I take like those kinds of things and help her see what I see.
That is very powerful and beautiful. I could see me having a conversation with my daughter like that today, hopefully soon.
You can.
Robyn, can I second that?
Yeah.
Real quick, Kim, your story has it very much is very similar to my story with my older two. They're like a year apart. They were very active, hard children. It was really, really hard. And I didn't know how to parent them, just like Robyn's talking. And I felt bad for years and years and years, like spanking and yelling and like doing all the things that without having the tools now that we have, realizing like that's not how you want to parent, right? And so
I've been able to just heal things with my kids one-on-one. And it's very much been through spending like one-on-one time with them, and then just like going through things that they're struggling with. And same thing, I feel like it heals both of us, like just addressing that and being like, yeah, I was not in a good place. Or did you know that this is what I was going through? Well, you were going through this. And so it kind of helps them see like why my response was the way it was. And now that like I'm apologizing and I want to, make amends and heal that, it's very healing if you allow yourself to be vulnerable and just admit that you did things that maybe you're not proud of. Like kids, they're so forgiving. And that's something that I think is quite amazing.
Yeah, thank you. That excites me a lot. I feel like I want to have a conversation with her very soon. After like the call that I did with Cherie and everything, like it's all kind of making sense to me. And I feel like I'm at a point where I can explain things to her about why things have been the way that they've been.
And also letting her know some skills. Like if you're like, I've learned when I start to feel like things are big, how do you make them smaller? Or what are the things that Kim does when she's learning to make a different choice? What are some of those things Kim does? Is it count backwards from 10? Is it deep breaths? Because whatever you are learning is working to just heal, bring you back to a healing spot, whatever it is, it will probably work for her. Like the correlation of that, I can't deny. Like the things that help me help my daughter so much. And I've even told my kids, I'm like, you know what? I'm an imperfect parent. I'm doing my very best. You guys will probably need therapy in your 30s. I tell that, like, your kids will probably need help. And God has put so many people on the earth with gifts, ideas, all sorts of stuff, so that you guys can have an even better life than I had. Like, it's a very positive conversation about healing and changing and these kinds of things, where when I was younger as a mom, I thought, oh no, if I talk about health, they're going to have a health complex. If I talk about forgiveness and healing and energetic stuff, they'll think I'm nuts, or that we have a problem in our family. I'm like, oh my gosh, what stories am I writing, girl? Like, how about we write the story of healing? So you can, even before you talk to your daughter, journal what it's going like. When I talk to my daughter about this is my feeling. This is what I'd love to share. This is what I would love to see. And even if you talk to her and half that doesn't happen, your energy toward it, the story you wrote, is going to be like the foundation for how the best it could ever be. And so whatever happens, you go, well, I did the best that I could, and I can sit in that confidence. And so when things get hard or overwhelming with our kids, this is a principle for everyone. You go, okay, what actually is happening? When I had two of my teenagers getting on me last night about, well, I need this, and I sat there and I'm like, oh, I have two highly emotional young adults screaming in my face. Like, I was able to just kind of like zoom back a little bit. And, oh, I'm glad that you were here, Kim. See ya. And be able to zoom out and see those things, be able to process differently. The last skill I want to teach before we talk to Heather is just look at your days. Really look at your days and realize you are choosing what you're doing. You're choosing where your kids go to school, if that means a long commute. You're choosing if they go on the bus or if you have a carpool. You're choosing the different stuff. So look at your days. Give yourself Sunday night or whatever to kind of look over your week and be like, okay, does this feel like the experience I would like to have this week? And if there's too much, call and reschedule whatever you can. Delegate that other thing. Call the lady in your church and say, I can't bring lasagna to whatever on whatever night, but I'm happy to buy a Stouffer's and drop it off. Like, really look at your week and choose the experience that you want. Otherwise, you get into it and you just put out fires. And overwhelm becomes the choice that feels the only way that you're going to allow yourself to do that is by choosing it. So it is a choice. It's like, oh, this is happening, but I have more say in what's going on than I probably allowed myself. Yeah, the idea of being the commentator of my life instead of the referee. Absolutely. That's great language there. So good. All right. So we have online Heather Shoemaker, and she has been in the EMX program. She's also in our mastermind called Solid Ground. And Heather is like experienced so many things. I'm gonna let her tell, the wins, but as her coach for a while, she has been through marriage, deep marriage relationship stuff. She's been through, how do I talk to my kid about this? She's been through, how do I change our finances about this? She's been through, how do I view my faith and relationship with God differently? What's going on with my faith? She's literally been willing to touch all the corners of what's going on in her life. And she's had some amazing shifts. Heather, come off mute and tell us kind of where you were before you started coaching in our programs.
So where I was before, I'd say I felt very stuck. I was a mom of four. I still am, but I had four kids who were all young. Probably the oldest was 10 at the time. So four kids, 10 and under. And I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had dabbled in some different MLMs and other businesses that I could do from home around the kids to try and help our finances. And we just weren't getting anywhere. Like, I really wanted to, at the time, and we lived in my parents' house, and we take care of it and their animals and some different things. But our goal for a long time has been to get on our own and to buy a house and to, change our financial situation and our living situation for our family. And it just wasn't happening. We had been here for 5 years, that we weren't really making progress on our debts. Like, things were just happening. And my husband just would get really frustrated and anxious about the situation. And I just felt stuck. I didn't know what else to do to help, because I felt like everything had to come from me. Like, I had to make more money. I had to do all the things. I had to figure it out because nobody else could do anything. It was all on me. And I was definitely in a place similar to what we talked about in today's call of taking responsibility for everything, for my kids, for my husband. Like, I mothered my whole life. Like, everyone in my life, I mothered. Well, not in my life, but under my umbrella, I mothered, including my husband. And that took a toll on our relationship. And so I just knew. I had seen Robyn. I had been watching her shift because I had worked with her in a couple different things before this program. And I had seen her change. And I was like, I need that, because that's what I want. And I knew that if she could do it, she could teach me how to do it. And that's kind of where I started. What else did you have something else before
when you were coming in, you were seeing that I had created a program. What was your top hesitation? Because you had the belief that the teachings would help. There was still that hesitation for a couple of months. What was it for you?
I think the biggest thing was the money, just the investment in general. Because money was one of my goals. It was hard for me to decide, okay, well, if I'm trying to earn more money and save more money, how does it make sense to actually invest money that's more than I've ever invested in something, when I could be putting that towards my house, or I could be, buying something for the kids, or other things outside of that. So that was probably the biggest, hesitation. And then just knowing that, because it was, a larger purchase, I wanted to tell my husband, but I was nervous to get him on board as well. So that's kind of.
So now that you've been in and re-signed your contract a couple of times, I'm like, share with us, once you got in and you started working, you started seeing these wins, what is now your hindsight perception of that hesitation with the husband, the money? Because that's really common among women of excellence. They want to see the bigger picture, and they're like, how does this make sense? So in hindsight, tell us what you now know about that. What do you tell someone else?
I think the biggest thing looking back is, first of all, I have a lot of grace for where I was, where at the time I had a lot of judgment. And, I felt like I had to make certain choices because what everybody else thought mattered and all of the things. And I judged myself for needing it even, or like feeling like I couldn't do it on my own. But looking back, I have a lot of grace because I had been through a lot of hard things and I knew that more was possible. And I knew that, this could do it. But I'm also kind of proud of myself, looking back that I invested in myself because that was hard for me. And that's something that, I also feel through the program that I've gotten better at, making myself a priority, both in taking care of myself, but also my wants and needs, has been something that I've taken away as well.
So share with us maybe 2 of your biggest wins that you're so proud of, having been in the program, being coached, doing the material. What are you most proud of?
I think one thing for me, one that's like an obvious, like anybody can see it and be really excited about is, my goal from the beginning has been get into our own house, right? Like, and I kind of explained that a little bit here. And even just in the last couple months, my husband switched jobs and lots of different things happened that didn't all make sense, right? Like I had to go by faith. Like my husband took a pay cut to switch jobs. And so I'm like, how is this going to work out for us buying a house next summer? And all of the different things. And it turned out that, he had money put away into different accounts that now he gets because he switched jobs because they can't transfer it and different things. And so without me having to work more, without him having to work more, he's moved into a better like environment and situation. And we have money for a down payment for a house. And so now it's just like, I think one of the biggest things is I've learned to lean into faith, which was really hard for me at the beginning. I knew that faith was a gift that was mine to have, and that I had faith in certain things, but I think I didn't have faith in myself. I didn't have faith to trust myself and to lean into those things that I wanted. I thought, that faith was all, faith in Christ and faith in Heavenly Father, but it really is like faith is trusting anything that you can't see yet or understand fully or whatever, and knowing that, if it's something good that you want for yourself or for your family or for anybody, really like a good intention that you want that you haven't seen, that it can be yours, and you have the faith in that idea that you're worth that thing and that it's going to happen. And that's been really big for me, because I think for a long time I was stuck in the place of not high self-confidence and self-worth, and not really understanding, not necessarily that I wasn't worth those things, but I think that's kind of what it came down to, was like I didn't have faith in myself that I could accomplish those things because I didn't believe in myself and didn't have faith in myself. So as soon as I shifted those things, and just my general understanding of faith as well, things have, even just the last 6 months compared to even just the beginning, like has been just a whirlwind. So it's been great.
All the shifts happen at the right time. Some of them happen in a week and some of them take a year. But what's awesome is once the shift happens, it's like the snowball effect of that context. So real, so good. So share with us then this last little bit, for just the last minute. What does it mean to you to have shifted this in your life? What does it mean to you to be a woman of faith in that way? How is that going to affect your kids? How is this going to affect all the things that you knew was being affected before you came in, and now you've had these shifts and you're like, I've had enough experiences now that what does this mean?
I think a couple things. The biggest thing is just an excitement and an optimism and, you know, about the future. Where before it was like I had a vision board and I had all these goals and dreams, and it felt like anywhere I went, it stayed this far away from me. So we all just kept living through time, and it just kept seeming like it was farther and farther away and it was never going to happen. And now, like, just seeing how shifting my mindset around things and how taking intentional action and, you know, having a vision for the things that I want in my life, how those things are appearing, but also learning how to process the struggles or the negatives, or recognizing that all of those, everything that's happening, you know, is a step on the path to get you where you want to go, whether it feels like it's a hard thing that's moving you backwards, or, you know, a struggle or a trial or whatever it might feel like in the moment. Like my husband quitting his job and having an odd, you know, situation with work where we weren't sure how finances were going to work out. And then that turning into a huge blessing of, oh, well, if he hadn't switched jobs, we'd still have to work for years to have a $30,000 down payment. You know what I mean? And so just all of the being able to see, and in the moment to see like all of those things that are happening, that like this was supposed to happen and something good's going to come from it. And just living in that space of faith and trust, but also just seeing the difference in my kids where they can start to see those things, and where they see me taking care of myself and investing in myself, and just teaching them those things, where they're going to grow up knowing, okay, when I get married, yeah, my wife needs to invest in herself. My wife needs to take care of herself. I need to help her, you know, do these things. And that kind of stuff needs to be important. And just having them grow up in a situation, and even being able to shift, kind of like we talked here in today's call about, you know, some of those boundaries and some of the different ways of parenting and all of that stuff, be able to heal those relationships and have them grow up in a different way than I did is beautiful. And it's not easy. It's a process. It's life. I mean, but it could be easy, right? You can make anything easy. But, you know, it takes time and it takes intentional action and those things, but it's powerful. And I have hope and excitement for the future, where before it just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. This is never going to happen. You know what I mean? So it's just exciting.
Okay, so give us one word of wisdom. Someone's sitting there thinking, how do I invest when my money is the thing I want to change? What do you say to them? What's the one thing you're going to say?
All right, let me think. If
She's just like
they're
you.
worried about money,
She's thinking, I never pay for stuff for myself. Like I don't, it has to be something gifted to me, or my husband has to be part of it. Like what do you say to this woman?
first of all, you are worth it, and you need to invest in yourself, whether it's this program or it's something else that you know in your heart is something that has been on your heart for a while, that you know that you need in your life. Lean into that. Trust yourself and lean in, because the longer you wait to follow those things, the more distrust you'll feel within yourself. And so, like, the money will come. If it's right, the money will come and you'll be able to do it. And you will feel good. You won't have any regrets. Like, if it's right and you know it in your heart, it'll all work out. So it has for me.
Right? It's just like, but it's that faith. It's the faith. It's just like, do I really have faith? So it's so good. So good. Thank you so much, Heather. All right, guys, beautiful call. This recording will be in this collective for a time. So go back and watch. We had a lot of books brought up, a lot of good points, and we'll see you guys on another week.